Hello and welcome back to this little mini series on interaction. And we learnt last time how to perform a trace, and we've debugged that using this line so we know it works. So we basically stored our player controller, we stored our character, which will become more obvious later on. We did use the owner control, but we will use the character as well later on, and we set a trace length. This interact target, I'll show you how to set that up as well in a minute, but not right away. We're going to now move on to what happens when we hit something. So when this performs a trace, it will then jump out here. It will not move from here until it's performed the trace. So the trace will happen regardless. If it hits anything or not, it will happen. As we come out of here, we then are able to see what it hit. So how do we know what it hit? We drag out of this out hit here, let go, and type the word break. And if you type break and you've got this box here, context sensitive done, all you'll get is break hit result. So click it and it brings this box. Now it doesn't look very detailed, but believe me, it gives you a lot of information. Click this arrow and boom. This will tell you if it was a blocking hit, if it just overlaps something, the time, the distance, location. Yeah, you get the idea. It tells you the actor you hit and also what part of the actor it hit, and if it hit a bone, what the hit bone name was. I don't know what the difference is. I'm not sure why we got to, but yeah, hit item, a primitive. Okay, so that must be faces and index of triangles and polygons. Yeah, and it also tells you the original start and end trace that we plugged in here, which we already know anyway, but there, this is by the by. So we've got that. So let's find out what it hit, and we can do that by getting the hit actor. All right, and what we'll do is, this is going to be a twofold. This is going to show us how to see what we've hit for debugging purposes. It's only a temporary thing, but it also hopefully might flag up a problem. That's the idea anyway. So drag off the exec pin, come across and type print, and you want print string. Okay, and then drag off the hit actor into string, and what that'll do is it'll automatically convert the node to give the display name out as a string every time we hit something. Compile, save, and we'll run. And as you can see, we hit the floor, and now we're not hitting anything, it disappears, and we hit the floor. The reason it's coming up all those times is because we're doing it every frame, so they'll disappear eventually. Hit the floor, hit nothing. So we know how things working. Yeah, it's not hitting anything there, it's too far away, and as we get closer to the floor, there we go. Click escape. Okay, we didn't get any errors, which is good. Normally the output log will be full of them, but we'll see in a minute. Well, no, it doesn't seem to have. I'm sure in the previous versions it actually pulled up an error, but obviously not. We'll try and invoke that error at some point. Delete the print string and the display name. That was a debug. It's just to show you what's going on and how it works. I'm just going to line those up. Right, what we're going to do now, we don't care about if we overlap hit. We want a blocking hit. Okay, so if it's a blocking hit, we want to do something. So if we drag off the blocking hit and type the word branch, what a branch is, if you don't know, it's a Boolean check, true or false. So we drag that out, connect it to there, and it gives us an output for true or false. So now we know if we've hit something or not. Yeah. We're only going to do something if we hit something. And what we're going to do, we're going to store the object. So again, if we drag, if you come over to the variables and hit the plus and type in interact target, I'm going to call mine interact target 2 because I've already got one. And you want to click on this box and type in there just object. I'll show you why that is in a minute. Come to object and object reference, and that's what you want to click on. I'm going to delete mine because I already have it. Whoops. and there's mine. Interact target is object. What we're going to do, we're going to set this. So if we come off here, drag it onto that pin, it will put it in between there and there. And the asset is, this select asset is going to be our hit actor. And we're going to compile and save. And then we're going to run this again. And there we go, nothing's happening. And now if we look down, hold shift and 1, click on our first person character, come to our BPC trace, and as you can see, our interact target is floor 0. That's this, and it should be, don't know why it gives you the _0. Maybe that's its built-in name, that's just its viewable name, I don't know. But we're hitting floor 0, and then when we look up, we don't have anything. If you look up here, we have none. Okay, let's stop that. Escape or click the red stop button. So we're going to move that straight to there. So on the output of the trace, straight into the branch. And on this side, we'll connect true to set. And alt click on there to get rid of that one at the end if you haven't already done it. Alt click is delete, control is grab. Right, if it's false, we want to set this to nothing. So all we do is drag our interact target to there and just leave it blank. So we've now stored a target. But what are we going to do with that target? Now let's have a look at my other one. So what I am doing here is I'm getting tags off the objects to see whether they're interactable, and I'm just returning whether there is or not because it's in a function, but we'll show you to put it into a function shortly. But I've also got this and here, and this and sorry, BPC interact is what I want. Event graph. Right, so all we're doing is checking this blocking hit. But what if we just use this one and not the blocking hit? That might be where I was getting the problems, because I was already checking for blocking hits. But maybe I shouldn't be checking this one, and that's probably where the errors would occur. But it's all right, we're past that now. This prevents us from checking, from causing errors by checking if there was a hit before we break it and get any information. But the and basically takes this. Is it a hit? Yes. What type of hit is it? And we want a blocking hit. We don't want initial overlap. Either way, they're both hits. So that one gives us either of these two. But we want to be specific. So if we drag off the blocking hit, type and you want and boolean, hold down the control and click and drag the top one to the bottom one. It just moves it. And then click and drag that with the control key again to there. So now if we link that up, that will only be true if it's a hit and that hit is a blocking hit. Now we could technically just check that one. It seemed to have worked, but I like to keep both bases covered just in case. The least amount of errors you get, the better. That is error trapping, basically, to prevent problems further down the line. Is it a hit and is it a blocking hit? And if both of them are true, it becomes out true. If one or both of them are not true, it comes out false. Compile and save. So how will we now know if we can interact with an object? So we don't, basically, when we hit the floor, we don't know we can interact with that floor. It just hits the floor. So how do we tell it that we do? So I've already made an actor, and what I did is in my content folder, I created a folder and I called it actors. If you want to do that yourself, you do how you like. You can choose exactly your hierarchy, but just remember where everything is. If you do it the same as mine, then later on it'll probably be less confusing. But if you find a better way and you're good at keeping track of stuff, do it your way. So go into actors and ignore that book, but this is what I call my interact actor. It's a base class blueprint that keeps track of whether you can interact with this object. So if you right click blueprint class, click actor and call it BP underscore interact actor. I'm going to delete that as I have mine here, and rather than go into too much detail and recreate the whole thing from scratch because it's only basic, I'll show you everything in here. So once you've done that, double click it and we'll get it open. As you can see, there's nothing in the main code here, right, but that's good. That's good. So what do we need? So when we look at an object, it's going to be able to, if you want to interact with it, we need to know how we're going to interact. Yeah. So what I found was the best way was to store some text that told the user what was going to happen when they interacted with it. So if it was the door, it would say open. If it was a lever, it'd say pull. If it was to read a book, it would say read. Yeah. So to do that, click plus on your variables here and call it interact text and set it as type text. Okay, compile and save. Once you compile and save it, you can just type in there. I've typed interact. You can put whatever you like in there. It's going to get overwritten by any new object. This is just the base class, so it's just interact. Yeah, nothing else. And that's pretty much that's in there. Okay, but then what that will do is that will allow us to let the player know how we're going to interact with his object. But this isn't all we're going to need. We're going to need something called an interface. And what an interface does, it communicates between the player or any other actor to that matter and an object. So it's like a radio station. It's like you have a dedicated radio line or a dedicated message service that you can send directly to characters without specifically knowing who they are. So you could have someone with a radio on, doesn't matter who they are, as long as they're all tuned into this same interface that we're going to make, they'll all hear it. Or we can check whether they're going to hear it or not as well first. But it sounds a bit complicated, but if we come on this side, you won't have this. There'll be nothing in interfaces. As you can see, I've got two. Okay, but you've got nothing. That's because we haven't created the interface yet. So let's do that now. So if you come to your content drawer, I made mine, I believe, in my first person blueprints folder, and there it is there. So if you right click blueprint class and you want no, sorry, my apologies, right click blueprints interface and call it BPI underscore interact. I'm going to get rid of this one as I already have it. Okay, so you should have BPI underscore interact, and it should look like a cog with an arrow in and arrow out. Okay, double click and it will open up. You'll have nothing in there. It'll probably be asking you to give yourself a function. Well, that's fine. Name that first function fn underscore get interact text. Okay, once you're inside and double click it, so this is what you will be seeing. So mine opened a bit strange there. So when you've got that, this is what you're seeing. Okay, we're not going to send any information to this, but what this does, this is going to turn around to the object and say, what is your interaction text? And the object's going to turn and say, this is what my interaction text is. That bit we've just put in, that variable. So, but as you can see, this has no code. It's all grayed out. You can't do anything on there because all it is describing how they talk. It doesn't tell them what they're going to do. It just describes how we're going to talk. So over here, bottom right, ignore this one for now, the second one, just this get interact text you just made. You should only just have the one. You want to click plus on outputs, call it interact text, and give it a type of text. Okay, perfect. So now we have a function that this goes, oi, you, what's your interact text? And this one says, returns the interact text at the other end. But the code isn't done here. This is just it describes to the other actor how to talk. That's what it is. So there we go. What I've also done is I created another one called fn_interact. This one has no outputs, but I have put an input. So on the inputs here, click the plus, call it player character, and it's set to, spell it right, character. Yep, and choose this one, the one with nothing else but just character and object reference. Okay, so what that does then is that means that when we interact with whatever it is, be it a door or whatever, this is telling it that this is the character that's doing this action. At the moment I've not actually used this for anything yet, but I thought maybe it's got some information that may be needed by the object. Who knows, depends. Maybe it's a multiplayer version of the game and you want to know which character's doing what, or I don't know, maybe it's got to do something to the character in return, so it needs to know what the character is. Maybe it poisons them, I don't know. But that's basically it. We're sending the information, but we're not sending anything back. That may change later on, but for now all I want to do is say, right, when I click interact, you're getting the name of the character and I'm telling you I'm interacting, and that's it. Simple as. So we've got two functions, get the text and to actually interact. If you save that and close, that's the interface done. But how do we use the interface? So if we go back into our content drawer and go back to our actors, our BP interact actor here, you may already still have it open. I still do. And to get these here so that we can use them, these interfaces, what you need to click is class settings, interfaces on the right hand side near the bottom, and go to implemented interfaces, click add and type in there BPI underscore, mine's not showing because it's already there, but interact, and there we go, and then that will make them appear here. Okay, right, I'm hoping you're following along. I'm trying to go at a decent sort of pace, but at the same time clearly. So let's put our interfaces here. This yellow one means we haven't done anything with it. If I double click it, all it's done is give me a node. I've not done anything with it. This one I have, and I'll show you what I've done. Double click it, and you remember that function we made? It now becomes here that we can use it. And all I've done is dragged our interact text onto the interact text there, and that's what's happening. The player's going to come along, interact, so this will trigger saying, hey, I'm interacting with you. Well, no, sorry, I'm close enough to interact with you. What can we do? And that's our interact text there. Let's tell them we can do this. Yeah, but that's not good enough on its own, and I'll just show you how. So if we now come into the content drawer, and we're going to create, I've created a folder called interactables. That's where all my interactables are going to be. Sorry, back to your interact actor here, right click, create child blueprint class. Okay, and it will create a new blueprint. Give it a name of blueprint interact cube. Okay, I've put it in my interactables folder here. You can leave it whatever you like, but you've got BP interact cube, which is a child of interact actor. Okay, so let me open this up and you'll come up with your viewport, and all I've done is click add and a cube. So add cube, that's it. Okay, save it, compile if it needs to. Okay, and then what we're going to do is drag this into the world. Just bring that up. There we go. If I hit play, we come along and, well, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening at all. Why is that? Well, that's because we haven't told it yet to do anything. It's returning the information if we're asking for it, but are we asking for it? No, we're not. So all we're doing is checking to see if we're hitting it, and we are. We're hitting it. Come out of that, come back to our BP interact cube, not our BP, our BPC trace. So if I bring mine up, BPC interact trace. Okay, let's get the information from our interactable. Okay, so what we're going to do is we've hit something, it's blocking, yeah, and now this is where we can test to see if this is an object that we want to check, we want to talk to. So I'm just going to drag these across. I've just selected them and hit the right arrow key to move them across. The bottom one will stay the same, so I'll just drag that down a bit. This one, however, if I drag off here, and that bit we did before, we've got implements. Oh no, you can't do it from there. You're gonna have to right click empty space and do it. Implements. Does object implement interface? Okay. So our test object is our actor, and the interface class is BPI interface. Interact, sorry. So that returns a value of whether our object is interactable. Okay. We can now do another branch off this. Drop that in there and join that one to there and that one into there, and the false we don't want to do anything with. We'll just kick it back out. We don't care because it's not one of these. Trying to think of a best way to tidy these up so they're not all over the place, but it's a little bit messy. So now we're checking, does it implement the interface? If it does, we're going to store it. If it doesn't, we're not going to bother. So if I compile and save and I run this, and if I look at the floor and shift F1, character, BPC current trace, as you can see, we've got no target. If you keep looking to the right, we have no target. But if we come along to here, we have now the cube, because the cube is an interact target. It employs our interface. No, yes, no, yes. See, so we've got to hit something that is interactable for us to get an interaction. Now we have that, we can now get the information that says what our interact text is. So we've set the target here. Now what we can do is we can type fn get, and as you can see, the interact is here. Get interact text, and it's a message. It's a message out to an object to say run this. And as you can see, this is why we set this as an object reference, because this only takes object reference. So we just drag that into there. Okay, now how do we know that this works? We can use our old friend the print. So if we drag off the interact text and go print text. Yeah, and the text will print to the screen. Save and compile. Run. As you can see, nothing's coming up, and there we go. Open. That's what we set it to. Open. That's what I set it to. Sorry. So let me just change mine because you haven't got that far yet. Let me change my interact text and do that. And it said interact. Yeah. Just to show you, this is what you probably would have seen. Interact. Yeah. But if we now go back into our interact cube and overwrite that text, if you can't see this text, click on this and click show inherited variables. If you don't, it doesn't show. So show inherited variables, and it's this interact text. And this one, now we're going to say I am a cube. Yeah. Compile, save, run, and now when we hit it, I'm a cube. Yeah, but the floor isn't replying because we haven't asked it, because we know it doesn't have any interaction. So now we know that this item can be interacted with, but how are we going to know what the information is instead of just scrolling it on the screen? Well, that will be in the next episode. We will set it up so that it comes up on the screen. We'll create a bit of a widget for the screen, and you will be able to see on the screen when you're interacting with an object. So I hope you follow that okay. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.